Now we're going to dive into Solana, and we're going to get into a Solana price prediction that I'm going to be very unbiased in this prediction. Now, the numbers aren't going to lie. It is what it is. And, I have my beliefs about Solana. I'm pretty sure if you're familiar with this channel at all, you know what those beliefs are, but I'm going to share more specific details as to why I feel the way I do about Solana, why I generally stay away from it. And ultimately, we're going to let you make your own decision as to what you think the ultimate outcome may very well be. And we're going to provide a lot of information to help provide that kind of perspective so that you can make an educated guess and you can further do your own research on Solana and its ecosystem and figure out if this is something you want to get into. It is what it is either way. I hope you do very, very well regardless. For me, cryptocurrency is all about everybody doing really well. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad actors in the space looking to take advantage of the unsuspecting, and we've all learned a hell of a lot since 2017 and beyond. And this is just one of those projects that I know is very popular among a particular group in the crypto space, and we're going to go over some of the details. So let's dive into this article. Before we dive into the charts and we go into the calculations of things and establish our price prediction, I want to go over some of the details as to why I think Cardano is going to act the way it is in this cycle, because ultimately I believe that this is going to be Solana's last bull market. I do. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. What happens between now and the peak of this market cycle is really going to depend on, I believe, the public perception of the blockchain, what has changed, what has gotten better, what has gotten worse, and basically the overall economy after the meme coin craze has died out in favor of more fundamentally sound projects, which I believe Solana lacks. So we're going to go over these details now. Now, this is an article that was written a while back by Justin Bonds. And this article breaks down a lot of kind of how Solana got its start, how it grew, some of the issues that were encountered with it. And I'm basically just going to cover, I'll throw this link in the description, but this ultimately, I'm just going to read the highlighted notes and let you guys dive in if you want to for more information. But in 2022, the Solana blockchain went down at least 9 times as a consequence of their own design decisions. Now, this in itself is a big deal because this has obviously continued on into 2024. Most recently, I know the blockchain shut down basically for like an entire week. And it's not anything that any significant use case or sensitive use case, I believe, would put to the test on Solana. I mean, if I were running any kind of business, I don't think I'd feel comfortable putting it on a blockchain that I know is prone to shut down. Birthed in fraud, in early April 2020, the Solana team stated that the total circulating supply was 8.2 million tokens. However, in reality, the total circulating supply was actually close to above 20 million, betraying the promise of the original investment terms. And there was a whole fiasco about this that basically spawned different class action suits and a lot of other things related to this information. It was also especially difficult to verify these claims as there were no explorers capable of checking what was really happening. When the Solana team was confronted by this, they simply claimed it was up to the community to build out this functionality. Basically saying, if you want to be able to deep dive into the on-chain metrics of our blockchain, you have to build it. We're not going to do it for you. And I found that very interesting. A third party found an unlocked Solana wallet containing 13 million tokens. It was only once the Solana team was fully exposed to these lies that they decided to release a Medium article basically admitting to the fraud, explaining that 11 million tokens were loaned out to a market maker while promising to get these tokens back and burn them within 30 days. This promise was made on numerous occasions in the following weeks. And then basically they did write an article about this market maker and what the deal was, but I still don't think that went very well. On May 23rd, the Solana team announced that they were only able to retrieve 3.3 million out of the 11.3 million tokens they had loaned out. deciding to instead release 8 million new Solana tokens into circulation to meet their commitment to burn without any announcement beforehand. Just a lot of underhanded ways that they've been going about things literally from inception. Fake transactions per second. We see a lot of this online. We see a lot of this argument basically touting Solana's transactions per second, but a lot of people know that this just isn't real. But a lot of the Solana buyers and a lot of the people that really don't seem to know any better, they just kind of buy into whatever headline is pushed, thinking that that's legitimate. By January of 2021, it had been exposed that the TPS for Solana was massively inflated as Solana counts consensus coordination messages as if they are transactions. This caused an apparent 100x increase in TPS, and this is still true to this day, which means that the majority of TPS shown by most block explorers are still fake. The below chart shows the ratio of real versus fake transactions. The tiny purple part of the bar represents real transaction volume. So you can see that minor fractions of what they're basically touting as their TPS is actually real. Now, I haven't deep dove into lately, like in the past year or two. I think this article is from like 1 or 2 years ago. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. I don't know exactly when this came out. I think it was, so this was in 2023. So this is basically a year old. So I don't know exactly what all has changed since then. Maybe some of these things have changed for the better. You'll have to educate me in the comments because I would love to be privy to it. But I'm doubting it. So the crazy thing here is that there is no good reason for this design choice, as the problem with the design is that validators still have to process these transactions. Validators have to pay the transaction fee for these consensus transactions, unlike almost all other blockchains. This results in validation being far more expensive than it needs to be, and it unnecessarily centralizes the network. Estimates are upwards of $6 million USD in order to run a validator profitably, a huge barrier to entry. The strange thing about this specific design choice is that there is no trade-off. And basically, they're basically saying to run a validator, it's going to cost you like $6 million, which is probably why it's a lot of major whales and major players, VC groups and the like, that are running these things. They're the only people that can afford them, which is also one of the reasons why I believe they're constantly pushing paid narratives in favor of Solana, because the better Solana does, the better these very expensive validators do. I could be wrong. Again, correct me. This is my opinion based off of what I read and what I see. Caught lying about TPS. On September 4th, 2021, Solana was experiencing a large amount of transaction failures. This was because a large number of transactions were all of a sudden hitting the network. I consider this to be a DDoS attack if the event can be proven, though I have debated this definition with Anatoly, the founder, I guess the CEO of Solana. The official Solana Twitter account, Solana Status, claimed the network was brought down by doing 400,000 transactions per second. This was an objectively false claim designed to make Solana look better than it really is. Either way, this did eventually lead to the network continuously forking. After this started occurring, the core team decided to restart the network based on their own snapshot, revealing the extreme degree of centralization present in Solana. That is a big deal many people choose to ignore in favor of number go up until something happens where it doesn't, and then what? This claim of achieving over 400,000 TPS over this time period was categorically false. This is because if transactions do not make it into the blockchain, they cannot be counted towards the TPS limit. As TPS is a measure of network capacity, Bitcoin can even handle higher loads on its mempool. Transactions were only in Solana's equivalent of a mempool, Gulfstream, which does not count towards TPS. Evidence was and still is all on chain, as the blocks clearly show a far lower TPS compared to the 400,000 Solana claimed. Now, this is a really big one. This is the article that this is the claim that we see constantly with people promoting Solana. TVL. We see Cardano's actual TVL due to staked volume that are delegated to nodes and off exchanges. We see nobody cares about that. People aren't counting that, even though that's a part of what is the value locked. It's not on exchanges ready to be traded and so forth. But then they favor Solana's TVL. On the 5th of August, 2022, a bombshell CoinDesk article exposed that the majority of Solana TVL was fake. This was later confirmed to be an open secret within Solana, as two developers pretended to be 10 plus devs and counted the same TVL over and over. This accounted for more than 70% of Solana's $10 billion TVL at its peak. And then you've got some information here to support some of this stuff. Dangerous design trade-offs. In my view, Solana is not innovative at all. There are some interesting features here and there, but its core design was defined by making reckless trade-offs in fundamental design while pretending as if this is innovative. Most VCs just did not understand the engineering trade-offs and the inherent risk this involves. Dangerous design decisions are not the same as innovative. Deceptive marketing actively blurs this line for many reasons. Specifically, proof of history and turbine. A consequence of POH is the deterministic block creation. Before Solana, almost all blockchains used non-deterministic block creation, as it adds to security and censorship resistance, as you cannot predict who will create the next block. Instead, in Solana, it is possible to predict and therefore attack the next block producers in line. For instance, attacking the next 100 validators in line instead of attacking the entire network. This attack also works regardless of scale, thereby severely reducing Solana security. You know, everybody talks about the cost to attack a blockchain, like you need to own basically 51% of Bitcoin to do a 51% attack, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is basically saying that Solana was done in such a way that you can basically do what would be otherwise categorized as like a 51% attack with basically just a line of the inline blocks. And so that is a big deal. Solana security is not just reduced against DDoS attacks, since this attack can be combined with a 51% attack, as an attacker would not need 51% stake to carry out a 51% attack due to POH. An attacker could DDoS next stakeholders in line and thereby gain control over the network. Combining turbine with POH leads to even more dire consequences. What's funny is that Solana just ran into an issue where something like this was happening with some of their validators that were subsidized by Solana, and so Solana cut them out of the ecosystem entirely and basically stopped those nodes' profitability, which is also a very centralized thing, which is interesting. The Solana network has an atrocious history of crashes, downtime, and network outages. In 2022 alone, the network went down at least 12 times. So this is a 2023 article talking about 2022. So, and I'm guessing this was early 2023 because the network has continued to go down and crash consistently all the way up until like a few weeks ago, I think was the big one where it went down for a week. This is why I have put together a short and incomplete history of Solana downtime, and then you can go through all that. Dangerous vulnerabilities. On the 2nd of August, more than 8,000 user wallets were hacked due to an exploit involving some wallets sending unencrypted private keys online. This was not strictly the Solana team's fault, but it is endemic to Solana's reckless culture, attracting even more risk. This just continues to go. I mean, there's just so much. And I feel so much of this is snowed over or some way kept from people. I'm not quite sure, but it just does not seem that people care that much, which blows my mind. Most VCs just do not understand the engineering trade-offs of the inherent risks involved, as the Solana team has consistently displayed a pattern of bad behavior. Solana is likely purposefully tricking non-technical investors with technobabble, such as counting consensus mechanisms as transactions, which I covered in more depth earlier in this article. This is how Solana rose to prominence, by taking dangerous design shortcuts while doubling down on some very bad security assumptions. There is clearly still a severe lack of understanding of blockchain fundamentals, which Solana has taken advantage of, as I would not touch Solana with a 10-foot pole. And there's just a lot of there's a lot of other information, details, conclusion, and so forth. Now, this is what it is, right? Like I'm only reading all of that. I'm not trying to hate on Solana. I don't like it. But this is one of the most clear kind of ways of explaining a lot of the reasons why I have not cared for Solana all these years. And there's a lot more coming, because we're going to look at the price history and what has happened in Solana's history, where it's at now, where we believe it's going to be by the peak of this market cycle, and of course get to the predictions. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into that right now. Of course, obviously, we have this where we talked about where I believe the Bitcoin market heading, the window of the peak sometime between July and potentially October of 2025, even though it sounds like forever away. So we're looking at Solana's price action now. Number one, Solana dropped 81.54% over 7 months before the FTX news. Okay, so if we had the peak up here, of course we dropped, we had a spike, and then we just tanked. That was 81.54%. Most blockchains drop around 80% against USD in the entirety of the market cycle, but not Solana. It dropped 81.54% over 7 months, and that was basically in the middle of the bear market. Number two, an article drops about FTX's FTT supply on November 2nd. When we were looking at this, you see a pretty fairly steady stream. Obviously, you see a pretty significant drop down here. I'm not sure exactly what caused that. I didn't go back and look. What I was interested in is when news of FTX and their FTT token supply came out on November, that came out right here. And what happened is we had a huge hard crash in Solana. And basically over this point alone, it was another 80% drop. Okay, it was an 80% drop from where it was. Solana drops another 80% after the FTX collapse. Why was Sol so deeply affected by the FTT token? That question's never really been answered. We know that it was Sam Bankman-Fried's second largest holding, apparently, when it comes to FTX, which I also find interesting considering FTX has very limited exposure to the market. It basically came out on the market, was adopted for some reason by all these big whales and all of these major players and exchanges and you name it. And it hadn't even been around to prove itself very much. It just became the talk of everywhere. And we still see a lot of this narrative kind of playing out today with a lot of paid features and a lot of paid articles. Bankruptcy of FTX. On November 2nd, 2022, CoinDesk published an article stating that Alameda Research, a trading firm affiliated with FTX and owned by FTX chief executive Sam Bankman-Fried, held a significant amount of FTX exchange token, FTT. And then that's what transpired. Now, moving into the grand market cycle here, you can see Solana, I mean, this is basically all the way back in April of 2020, okay? This was all right before Bitcoin's first peak. This is very interesting because it basically just popped on the scene and then rose with Bitcoin all the way up till almost the day of Bitcoin's peak. I find this very peculiar personally. June 2021, Solana Labs sold $314 million worth of Sol token to a group of funds led by Andreessen, Horowitz, and Polychain Capital, though neither mention it on their Wikipedia pages. So I find that very interesting because Solana started to rise up a bit and then tanked, right? It just had a significant drop down here. But then they sell $314 million to these VC groups, and it got an immediate pump at that point, came back down, but started following ultimately the support at that range before it rose substantially along with everything else in the market, but primarily in line with Bitcoin. So before this deal happened, you can see that Bitcoin peaked all the way back here. Okay, so basically here on April 13th, 2021, that was when I called Bitcoin's market peak on Twitter to the day, and everybody went nuts. They were like, Crow, you're asinine, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, how dare you, why are you trying to hurt the market, like all of that craziness, right? But the market did in fact peak that day. And what happened was nothing with Solana. Now, this is typically the post Bitcoin into the altcoin market pump, and it wasn't that substantial before it started to tank almost immediately after. This is a daily chart, folks. So basically over the course of just not that long, 2 weeks, Solana tanked. Then it made this deal with this venture capital group selling $314 million. I don't know if this was a cry for help or what, but over a period of time, we got to this point here in July of 2021, which is basically, well, this period here was the bottom. Okay. So the bottom of this cycle's pump was right here, and that was around $18, $19. Then somehow, some way, we went from $19 post sale to this VC group, and boom, it went all the way up to $218 for this first peak, which was Solana's first peak, all the way up to its high of around $270. I think its actual high in a wick was around $280. And this was in line with Bitcoin's second peak of the market as well. Often, when a funded SOL meme coin launches, it buys paid article placements, trashing Cardano in favor of the latest new meme coin in efforts to capitalize on the ADA community. Now, this is a practice that I've seen time and time again. Every time I see a new Solana, every time I see a new Solana article pop up or a new Solana meme coin launch, it's always as part of some paid advertisement, basically talking about how Cardano investors are leaving in droves in favor of new X shitcoin, right? And it's like this narrative keeps getting recycled over and over and over as they're trying to generate attention away from Cardano and into Solana's ecosystem ultimately. And then it doesn't take that long before a lot of these tokens get rugged and people are burned. Now, this is Bitcoin and Solana's dominance chart. And if you look at the history of Solana, it never really reaches a point where it goes beyond around 3% at its peak. Okay, 3.05%. That was March 21st of 2024. So that's about right now. And what's interesting is this is around the peak, I believe, what is ultimately going to be the peak of Solana's meme coin ecosystem. So if we're looking at Bitcoin's dominance at around 50%, Solana at around 3%, is it safe to assume that even if this were Solana's like last bull market, that it's still likely going to do pretty well, given that there's still room to grow, for one, based off of where we are in price, currently trading at around $143. We see number go up. Anytime the market goes up, Solana generally pumps. Solana generally pumps because the majority of the Solana ecosystem are meme tokens, right? So meme tokens by its very nature generates community after community after community of people that they may be pulled into the particular meme token, but then they also end up interested in the layer one that token's built on, which is Solana. Now, number go up, so all else be damned. Everything that I've read, everything that I pointed out about Solana to date, there's so many things that have happened since that article, but it doesn't matter. Number go up, right? So let's take a look at what I think the potential market top is for Solana this time around. Now, it's not too shabby. I'm not going to lie. And I'm trying to be as non-biased as I possibly can in all of this. I'm just letting everything speak for itself for the most part, but we're going to look at it. You'll see this is basically Solana's price action since inception. Ultimately, this goes all the way back to like April of 2020 on the far left here. If we zoom out and we look at what we see here, we can see that Solana's actually been kind of not doing so hot. We had the significant run up here where number go up. And I'm not 100% sure why number went up the way it did, but ultimately it came up 932%. That is significant. Now, I'm not gonna get into why it went up or any of that stuff, because it just doesn't matter in the name of this video. But what we're seeing is that it basically bounced off of this trend line here that was established all the way from the market peak, and it said, no, it's not ready. It's not going to go that much. Now, what we're seeing now is it's just basically new lows. Okay. So it's lower lows on the way down, and it's really struggling right now on its daily candle. But of course, you know, the difference between me and what the news will tell you is you'll see, you know, if I were writing an anti-Cardano article, I would say, you know, Cardano drops, let's see, I would probably start here, right? Like, why not? Cardano drops 25% over the short term. Is this a dead chain? Is Solana or is Cardano gonna survive, right? And I would create this narrative, and then I would probably pump a shitcoin on a different blockchain. Like, that's how the media works in crypto now, because it's all for sale. And I've got some stuff coming. I'm going to show you that this is all for sale. Now, the reality is, though, is Solana's not dead. It's not done. It has a booming ecosystem, even though I believe that while Solana has a lot of issues, and the ecosystem on Solana has a lot of issues. Yeah, there's all the analogies I want to make are really bad, and I just don't want to make that. But, you know, the people of one kind attract others of the same kind. I guess I'll leave it at that. Now, this is where I see the price potentially moving to. Okay, but within the window of the peak of the market cycle in 2025. And if we look at the numbers here, if the total crypto market cap in 2025 ends up around $10 trillion, which all arrows, all lines are pointing to this, Solana's dominance, let's just say it gets to 2.7%. Let's just say that the meme coin market starts to peter out a bit because so many people have been burned by this time. And Solana doesn't necessarily have a new narrative to push through the media and everywhere else. And maybe, because this is what I honestly think is likely to happen. If the peak of the market cycle was somewhere around $280, then that means that likely some point around here, let's just call it $293. At this point, everybody that's ever bought into Solana will have gotten their money back, and potentially the profits associated with a lot of the meme coin ecosystems that they've also been investing into in the interim. And at this point, either, in my opinion, I think it's going to depend on how much money is spent, how much work goes into getting the price back to this point. Because let's assume for a minute that FTX and the FTT token played a significant role in getting Solana's price up to this point. Okay, let's just assume, because it happened so suddenly that it was just, you know, up to that point that they're pushing the market. Now, let's just assume that starts to peter out and come to a halt, because they don't have the help of FTX and Solana anymore necessarily that I'm aware of. So there's no, that whale is gone. So now it's up to the meme coin economy that they've been building and whatever they're able to accomplish in the media. So either one of two things is going to happen. Either one, this basically reaches a new all-time high, but then does an about face as all the whales liquidate and get out, and move on to other blockchains, likely putting their resources and money into stuff that's a little less risky. Or they go ahead and ride this as best they can to the next peak. And if the circulating supply at the time is 461 million Solana tokens, which how did that even get that high? Is that real? How did it even circulating supply? 461 million Sol. I don't even understand how that's like. That's insane. It's just grown like so much. I need to dive into that, because if it was supposed to be like 20 million at one point, I'm not sure. I'm probably way off on that. You guys will have to correct me. But anyway, even at 461 million tokens, it would potentially put the price peak at $584 if it were just to establish 2.7% of the dominance of the crypto market cap at a $10 trillion market. And I really do believe that we're going to have a lot of issues. Okay. And you know, currently trading at $141.38. We can see it's not doing so hot right now. And if you really want to get an idea as to what is going on in the Solana ecosystem, you can either go to myanalos.com, which is a meme coin that I started as kind of a joke just to kind of open people's eyes to what's going on in this ecosystem. But you can just punch in Solana scam. And you'll get a really good idea as to what is happening in the Solana ecosystem, because people just, you know, they're tagging all the different scams, all the different rug pulls, everything that's just not very good that's happening on Solana, and just a lot of memes, a lot of stuff. But if you want to keep track of the ecosystem and what is likely to be expected on Solana, unfortunately, that's what you have to look at. It's like going to Walmart at midnight to figure out what's going on in the stock market. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles for this. Now, I'm not saying that Solana investors may not do very well. I'm not saying that you're going to get burned right now, but I do think that Solana's days are numbered, and I really do believe that. Inferior tech, obviously, the way they've gone about building Solana, the way they've gone about building the narrative around Solana, the meme ecosystem that I believe is ultimately replacing FTX's involvement in boosting the Solana ecosystem with a lot of false narratives, rug pulls, and just sketchy stuff. And I just don't. But the thing is as long as the number go up, fundamentals be damned, risk be damned, nobody seems to care. And what people are doing is they'll take $1,000 and they'll throw $100 at every new meme coin that goes into Solana or that gets started on Solana. And then they try to play it with bots. And there are so many different bots that are algorithmically trading the Solana meme coin market, where they automatically buy the newest token on Solana, and then they try to trade the pump and dumps of a meme coin market. It's blowing my mind. Some people are making money. A lot of people are getting burned by it, but it keeps the volume high and it keeps Solana in the conversation. And I just think that the days for something like that are numbered. How many times in a year do you really want to go to an amusement park, especially an amusement park where you walk in and some people are falling out of the coasters? It's just not something I think is highly sustainable long term. But that's just my opinion. This isn't personal. This is just me calling it as I see it. So if this helps you make a good decision, great. Continue doing your own research. I implore you, don't get caught up in a lot of the sketchiness of blockchain in general. I'm not just talking about the meme coin market. I know that where we're at right now, we might get to a point where anything you throw money at could be like worth its weight in gold and all of that. But ultimately, you still want to be safe. And I've learned since 2017 that I really try to focus on what has proven itself time and time and time again. Honestly, Solana came to the scene like in its first market cycle. Let's just say it was 2020, rode a peak to 2021, came down, and here we are in the second market cycle, and really not much good has come of it. So you can ignore all of those details if you want to, expecting number to go up forever. But I really do truly believe that a lot of people are going to get burned. And that's just the way it is going to be. And I'm always right sometimes. So until next time, guys and gals, thanks for joining me. Crow your coins, and I'll see you again soon. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm an absolute trading card game fanatic. From Magic the Gathering, L5R, you name it, I've probably played it. I have never played Pokemon. I got to admit that. I've never played that. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is Wargrim, and this is coming very soon, likely within the next 60 days. Make sure you go to wargrim.io and click up here to join the wait list. This is a trading card game on the Cardano blockchain, unlike anything you've seen. This has been in development now for so long. I have been doing all of the art myself. I have a team from literally across the globe that have been building this out. You can check it out now. We do have internal beta testing and more. We have a lot of testing still to come. I just finished assets for over 250 cards for the first core set of the game, as well as 2 starter decks that everybody's going to be able to get. We're probably going to start giving some of this stuff out during Rare Evo coming up in August. So if you're there, come to my booth. You won't be able to miss it. And make sure you sign up, because we're going to be doing some fun giveaways and things related to Wargrim and other things that I'm a part of. Make sure you go to wargrim.io, bookmark it, join the wait list now. You're really going to love this game. Demos coming very soon.